Hi, this is Ted again, and I've been playing around a little bit with large language models, AI, large language models, chatbots, something like ChatGPT. This particular one is from a group that broke away from ChatGPT because they didn't like the way that ChatGPT was going. They thought it was too dangerous, and that's a whole nother story, which I'm not going to talk about today. I'm going to talk instead about faith healing because I wanted a summary. I wanted to see what it would tell me about faith healing and see if it aligned at all with any of my own studies, because I did 11 years of studying, digging into I took hundreds and hundreds of examples from films that I saw with Catherine Kuhlman, Benny Hinn, all these other different people claiming to be healing people, and I compared it to different medical studies and stuff, and I came to certain conclusions, and I'm going to talk today about some of those conclusions as I go through that Claude.ai, a large language model that I got from them. And what I put in is a prompt. I said, faith healers use a lot of tricks. I know that many do. Placebo effects. I know many use placebo effects knowingly or unknowingly. And possibly an occasional healing. I am willing to accept that sometimes somebody might get healed. And I do have my theories about the vast majority of those times, which actually this will come up with and talk to me about a little bit, and I'll talk to you about it. And I said, basically, after that, occasional healing possibilities, can you elaborate? Okay. This is what I came up with. Faith healing practices often combine psychological, yes, I agree, social, I agree. In other words, there's a group involved. There's a whole huge audience involved when you're dealing with your faith healers that are bringing in big, huge audiences. Yeah, so social is very important. And sometimes psychological mechanisms, and I agree with all of that. Oh, I'm sorry, psychological, they already said. Physiological. In other words, your body can react to stuff going on in your head. And that I believe with all my heart, because I've seen cases. Anyway, well, these mechanisms create the impression of supernatural intervention. This is where I'm coming down with, because just because you see something that looks like a healing doesn't mean it is from God. There are many areas of our own thinking, of our own expectations that come through and can create the healing process or a temporary relief of pain or relief of some kind of symptom. I'll get more into that. Here's an elaboration on the methods commonly used. Common techniques in faith healing. All right, let's get into this. Psychological manipulation. A suggestion and expectation. This is something I concluded on my own, watching so many faith healers go at it and talk to people, and experiencing two big, huge occasions of my own life, one with Catherine Kuhlman, one with the biggest pastor in the entire world at the time, Yonggi Cho. I keep on wanting to say Dr. Yonggi Cho, but that is an inappropriate title because he is not a doctor. He's never studied, and he has perhaps an honorary title from some university that most universities that give him such titles do not deserve to be called universities. But I'm not going to get into that because that's a side, what do you want to call it? A side travel. All right. Suggestion and expectation create powerful belief systems where people anticipate healing. This is true. When I went into Catherine Kuhlman Crusade, when I got healed, but never did get healed, but I got healed. I was on stage and I was told I was healed, but nothing happened. Same thing happened to my friend who was with me because we were both shortly after a car accident where we're banged up and looking just downright horrible. And it was perfect for her entertaining the crowds. And the crowds thought the power of God had come over us. And both of us admitted the next day nothing had happened. But I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of things I'm not going to get into today. All right, so suggestion and expectation are powerful. People don't, this is the problem is most people don't realize this. No, it's not going to create a miracle on its own, but there's things that happen to us when we expect something. It's far beyond what we do expect, just from the expectation. Authority establishment. And now this I also realize on my own studying. Authority is very important. It's the people you trust. It's the people you look up to. If Catherine Kuhlman said, I am healed, I am healed. And if Benny Hinn says, I'm healed, I am healed. I'm going to take off my braces. I'm going to do whatever it takes because I trust. And I believe in that authority. Now, don't get too hard on the people who fall into this trick, because I can guarantee a lot of you watching are trusting authorities that maybe you're putting too much trust in. We should be challenging everything. The Bible tells us to challenge everything, hold fast to that which is good. All right, authority established through confident speech, religious knowledge, commending presence. If you have a nice, clean doctrine teaching of how you should be healed, and you can be healed, and you are healed, you're going to buy into it easily because it's very clear, it's stated very clearly, it's wonderfully said, but it's a little trap because it's not true. The vast majority. There might be parts of truth, enough to be able to give it a semblance of universal truth, but it is not. Selective targeting. Focus on conditions with fluctuating symptoms. Cancer is a good one. You can be having cancer today, and within months, it goes away. I don't care if you're a believer, unbeliever, filled with faith, or no faith whatsoever. This is true. And that's why cancer is a wonderful, wonderful thing to point out and say, you're getting healed from cancer. There's another reason cancer is also important, because it presents pain. And when you are in a group of people like this with so much expectation and trust in this authority, pain goes away. And it's not just pain. Pain is the universal. That's the one that the placebo effect affects the best and the most pain. People go into these things and they can't move their arm because of arthritis, but also the pain disappears and they can move it wildly. 1 hour later, they can't move it again. What happened? Placebo effect. I had a bike accident, mountain biking, going over a ramp. Shouldn't have done it, but I broke 5 ribs and a collarbone, and it punctured a lung. And I took my bike. I drove my bike for over 2 miles, loaded up on my car, locked it up, drove myself to the hospital. 2 hours later, the pain hit, and it hit hard. What happened? A placebo is going on. Something is going on in my body which is relieving pain. And that's what's going on up on stage when you see somebody wildly flailing their arms around and running around on stage. I haven't felt this good in so long. You're not going to feel that good in an hour or two from now. Believe me. The vast majority of those people go right back. And guess what? The faith healer can say, you didn't have enough faith. It's a trip. It's a trick. It's not good. It's not healthy. And it's not good at all. Selective targeting. Focus on those conditions like cancer and pain conditions. God is healing you from pain right now. Yeah, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. You're going to be on stage. Oh, God relieved me from pain, from the cancer, because I don't feel pain anymore. I'm sure. But you know what? If you had an x-ray going up there, you still have cancer. But you have that pain gone temporarily. Okay, psychosomatic issues. There's a lot, believe it or not, a lot more than you realize going on psychosomatically. Ailments that improve naturally over time. That's kind of like cancer. Can improve over time. And, you give a testimony, God healed my wife from cancer. And a year later, she's dying of that same cancer. What happened? Well, you went to the doctor, and the doctor says, I can't find any more cancer, but it returns right away because it's just the way cancer works. I am sorry. Vague diagnosis. Address conditions difficult to verify objectively. Theatrical elements. This is so important for your Benny Hinn's and Catherine Kuhlman's. Dramatic music. I saw that years ago. I saw Benny Hinn had a 12 section or 12 CD emphasis, teaching about how important it is to have music going on in his crusades. It is, because it gets you all feeling good, feeling really connected to the people and all this kind of stuff, and you feel God, it just feels so wonderful. And now you're ready. He will not automatically jump into healing. I've not known him ever to do this without first having a lot of worship and a lot of praise going on. Then there's emotional testimonies that get your emotions running high. And most of those testimonies, the vast majority, are people who haven't really been healed. They just are going through a temporary relief of pain or whatnot. I actually went through a temporary relief of sinus issues. It can happen. I can't get too deep into this, but there's things that you would be surprised what the placebo can do. Crowd dynamics that diminish critical thinking. That's very important. And this is something that even secular scientists study crowds, and there's something that does take place. Our critical thinking, our best thinking, goes out the window when we're with crowds. We tend to get to the bottom of the emotional part of that crowd. Carefully choreographed performances. Definitely, it's all dedicated to help us to become totally sold on what we are getting into. Strategic techniques, cold reading. Now, I hadn't gotten into this at all. Most of those other things, I could see that. I discovered most of these things on my own. But cold reading, I never, ever got into. But it makes total sense. Cold reading, I know from psychics. Psychics will basically throw out something. It's called the Barnum effect. They throw out something very vague, and they're toying with you. They're seeing what you will react to. There's somebody in your life. This I haven't seen with faith healers, but actually I have seen a little bit. And their name starts with M. Well, right away you're going to say, "Oh, I got several M's. It could be Mary." Oh, I'm sure it's Mary. Well, they're having a problem right now. You see what they're doing? First of all, they give you something vague. And when they see you respond, and you might respond saying, "Oh, yes, I have a sister, and she's going through a lot of trouble." Oh, now that's cold reading. It's giving you something vague, and it's zeroing in on whatever you give them, whether that is something verbal or whether it's something that's just coming from their reactions. Hot reading, gathering information about attendees beforehand. There have been several who have been busted on this, at least one person who has been busted on this. And he was basically getting hot readings from his wife. And I know others have done it. When they give you your address, the Lord has told me that you live at such, they are doing a hot reading. They're getting that information. They can do it from the internet. Psychic, basically a guy who's busting psychics, he put out fake information about himself on the internet and then went to see a psychic. And guess what the psychic started bringing up? His fake information. Preachers can do that too. Oh, my preacher wouldn't. You're falling into a trap. I don't care who it is, honest or not. You have to check out everything. Hold fast to that which is good. Don't be so gullible. Don't fall into these traps. Hot reading, statistical probability, making enough general statements that some will inevitably resonate. Somebody out there, maybe in this section, is feeling right now that you've been going through arthritis. Okay, guarantee there's a lot of people in that section going through arthritis. All right. Statistical possibility. Placebo effect. Real psychological changes. This is psychological. We have two different types of diseases. We have the functional and we have the structural. These functional are things that are created by our psychic, our brain, our expectations and stuff. Just a lot of stress can do it. A lot of, it's something that's happening up here. And then you have physical. Okay, it just broke my bones. Okay, that's physical. Now, by the way, Catherine Kuhlman claimed that I was being healed of a broken bone. Was I? No. Brain chemistry changes is what's going on with the placebo effect. Stress reduction. Immune function, temporary improvements in immune response. You can actually have a physical reaction to something that's going on in the head. And this is something that's natural, not always from God. Okay, can God use the natural? Absolutely. I don't have a doubt about that. Pain perception. I've already talked enough about pain, and I got to get going. Explaining genuine healings. Now, if you've been to a doctor, and I've talked to them, a couple of them, about placebos and stuff like that, and they try very hard not to trash faith healers, because some people, and I've done a study on how many people really, really benefit, and what I've come to is there's a small, perhaps 2 or 3% of people who, from psychological issues, can be healed long term. But it's from this psychological area. And I wouldn't categorize that as a miracle. Can God use it? Sure. But so can just the body and your reaction to what's going on. So the natural resolution of conditions, regression to the mean is what they're saying. These are genuine healings. Strong emotional experiences affecting the autonomic nervous system. Stress reduction through community support, involvement, misdiagnosis. Now those first 3 are basically getting on your emotions and how you react to this and all that kind of stuff. But there's also misdiagnosis or exaggeration. A lot of the people coming up front with these faith healers are really exaggerating. Doctors know this. And they'll be the first to tell you. The people coming into their offices a lot of times are exaggerating everything. There are some people who just really, they live in this exaggerate. I'm so unhealthy. And they love getting on stage and talk about how much. And add to that, your preachers are likewise exaggerating. Oh, so you couldn't walk at all. It's not what I said. I said I had a hard time walking. Oh, and you needed this wheelchair. Point out the wheelchair. That's a prop, by the way. Point out the wheelchair. You come in this wheelchair. Well, the chances are that wheelchair was given to you on the way in because somebody said, would you like a wheelchair? Yeah, sure. That's a Catherine Kuhlman trick, by the way. Psychosomatic conditions responding to psychological intervention. That's pretty much, I think I explained that well enough. Why faith healing persists. All right. There's enough apparent successes to maintain belief. I'm going to say the apparent successes, most of them are things you see on stage and are not permanent. You might find occasional, and if you're digging in deep enough, you probably will find occasional real healings, but they're always psychosomatic, and they're not related to the structural problems of our body. Failure is attributed to insufficient faith or divine will. We've already talked about that. Strong communal reinforcement. Believe it or not, these things really do help. In healing, they can help. But telling somebody they lack faith does not help. That actually destroys it and may actually tear down the ability for them to heal. Desperate situations making people receptive to hope. All right, that's pretty much, I thought it was a good conclusion. By the way, I did have a little slightly different reading from Claude. I threw this into ChatGPT and asked them to help me simplify it a little bit because I wanted to make this fast. And so it did that. And this is Ted. By the way, if you like this, subscribe. Subscribe to me, like, comment. We'll see you all. Have a good one. Bye.